If you search on the internet by Node.js streams examples, you would end up a bit confused with so many examples using both .pipe and string pipeline functions to handle strings pipelines in Node.js. In summary, the .pipe function we usually use when we don't need to fully consume the string. Imagine that you have an audio player. The front end requests your HTTP API to consume audio streams from a file you have on your server. When the users press the play button, the front end triggers your API, which starts sending audio streams which your browser would reproduce it. The user just doesn't want to listen the full song and would close the browser at any moment. When he does it, your HTTP API would close the connection and it should also stop reading data from the audio file, as you won't have any consumer to consume it. If you use the string pipeline function instead, when the client closes the connection, you would face an exception error showing that your string was closed before reading all the content. So if you want to consume a full CSV file, a database, or something that is unlikely to be disconnected in the middle, you should use the string pipeline. Otherwise, you would use the .pipe function. Let's check this out in practice. Okay, close them all. 60th project, nice. All right, so our function will be our pipe versus pipeline, okay? I'm gonna create just an index.mjs file right here. And actually, I'm gonna write a big file. So remember how we did it? So I'm gonna use process stdout.write, right, all right. And then I'm gonna use hello world. And I'm gonna repeat 1 and 7 zeros, all right? And then I'm gonna redirect it to a big file. So I'm gonna stop all examples from the last class. I could exit from all those terminals and stop it. And let's go back to our 6. Okay? And then I'm gonna run it, and we have our big file there, which have now 100 megabytes. So I want to reproduce with you what happens when you're streaming data and your user just disconnected. So those functions will help you a lot to handle this kind of problem. Okay, so first of all, let's create a function, actually a server. Okay, so node http and create server. So we're gonna have the request, the response, and then I'm gonna listen to 3000 console.log running at 3000. So here I'm gonna grab our import node fs create read string. Okay, so our file will be our big file we just have there. Okay, I'm gonna actually grab this whole thing and pipe to our response. Okay, all right, so I'm gonna just put this more here. We can run our index. Okay, and then I'm gonna open more one terminal and run a curl. So you can actually do exactly the same thing on the terminal. So I'm gonna use localhost 3000 and run it. So I can see the whole thing here, and if I stop reading it, I can stop and my API is still working, right? So I can stop and disconnect it anyway. Perfect. So let's try out another example. So I'm using pipe, and pipe can consume partially string. Okay, I'm gonna create two APIs here to exemplify. So I'm gonna say connection received from API 01. Okay, and then I'm gonna copy paste, put it on 3001. Okay, this one will be 3001, and the API is the second one. Okay, all right, Well, I'm gonna create both APIs here and I will try consuming this data to check this out, okay? So, as I said, we're gonna use the string pipeline, so node string, I'm gonna grab from promises, and I'm gonna use pipeline, okay? Pipeline has also a better error handling, okay? So I can use await and I can use try-cat. So whenever I had any problem there, I could catch it on a try-cat function. So here I'm gonna create a second file, string2, and here string1, okay? So I'm gonna read data from the string1 and redirect it to the response. Okay, and now I can remove this pipeline. Okay, if I try running our project here, we can see it's working. I can try running on the 3001 now, and I can close it, and now we can see premature close. Okay, I stopped running my project here and I saw that the whole application just closed. So here I'm gonna comment it if you don't consume the whole string. Nice, isn't it? I just learned this in production. So I actually saw people saying you shouldn't use pipe for everything because the error handling here is a bit different. I'm gonna show it in the next modules, okay? Error handling. And you should use pipeline because you can put a try-cat there and you can wait for results and so on. So yeah, I didn't like much because this was the behavior I wanted for reproducing static files such videos, audios, and so on. All right, so now you understood. Let's create something, some client here to use the same idea. So I'm gonna import a function from node timers and promises, which will be the set timeout. Okay, I'm gonna let this API is running a bit, and then I start sending requests. Okay, so I'm gonna wait for the set timeout for half a second, and then I'm gonna create a function here. So I'm gonna import from HTTP. I will have the get function. Okay, so get HTTP string. Okay, I will grab an URL and I will redirect it as a promise, and then I'm gonna use the get on the URL, and this get uses actually a callback which has the HTTP request as string. Okay, so it's the response, and I'm gonna just return this response. See that this get function doesn't follow the error callback, right? The callback convention. Okay, so first of all, I'll try creating a pass-through here to redirect everything there. So let's, well, I can do from here, pass-through, okay? It grab from pass-through, okay. It's all set, pass-through is here. So I'm gonna create a simple function just to pass all the function. I actually don't need to use new because it's actually the same thing behind the scenes. And now I will try piping this whole thing. So string pipe will be await get HTTP string, and it will be HTTP localhost 3000. So then I will string pipe this whole thing to our pass through function. Okay, I think it's better to use it as a function so we can reuse it later in other contexts. Okay, nice. So after half a second, we're gonna grab our client here to start consuming data from our string, and it's actually redirecting data to our pass-through, which doesn't anything here, but you know, the pass-through will just grab the data and let it go away. Nice. What happens if we try running this? So index connection received from API 1 because our pass-through just got there. Okay, so it's receiving all the data and redirecting to a pass-through empty string in this way. Nice. Let's try doing the same thing for our other functions. So here will be the string pipeline, okay? And it's the 3001. Well, I'll do the same thing, okay? If I try doing this, we're gonna see that everything is working fine and we have both connections there, okay? But I want to close the connection in the middle of the process to see what happened, okay? So I'm gonna use string pipe.destroy, and the same thing for the pipeline, okay? So if I run this, after a while, we can see the premature close on the API 2, okay? So we just reproduce the same thing that we saw on the terminal. However, I wanna grab this error, so I'm gonna use process on uncaught exception, and I will have here the message, the error message, okay? So I'm gonna just make some testing here so you can see this working fine and see what happens. So to make an assertion here, I'm gonna import from node assert the call tracker. Call tracker, it's a very useful function in Node.js to track how many times a function was called. I'm gonna grab this right to the end of the file so we can count that the behavior of the function actually is happening, okay? So what I'm gonna do here, I will actually grab a function, okay, from our tracker, and I will use calls, okay? This calls is gonna receive the same callback we have here, and I will pass it here. It's gonna work as a middleware for us, okay? Whenever we have an error here, we can check that it was called. So I expect this function to be called. So after all, I will have to call the verify. So if non-error has happened, it will throw some exceptions and show us that our behavior is not working, okay? So I'm gonna put here a console log and just call Spring pipeline rejects if you don't fully consume it, okay? So I'm gonna grab the deep straight equal, which just imported from the node assert automatically, right? And I'm gonna grab the message, and I expect this message to be the premature close, all right, as we have here. So I'm gonna put this message right there. And after all, I wanna close this process. Okay, I will actually wait just 10 milliseconds to verify it, so we can have something to our process run. So let's see, our index is there. We actually spin up 2 servers. We receive 2 connections, but when we are using string pipeline, it rejected if we don't consume it. So we can see that the error was right there, okay? I actually like doing this kind of experiment with you, so you in the future, you can understand what I'm trying to do here. Because if I don't do this kind of thing, you're gonna run it and you're gonna see an error and it was like, oh, I'm not sure if it's because something changed in the Node.js or if actually was something on purpose, okay? So I put it here so you won't see any error because we are handling everything. Perfect. What we learned here, we only use pipeline when we know that we're gonna consume the full thing, okay? Otherwise, we can actually wrap it on a try-catch function, or we can use the pipe, which is meant for this kind of operation. All right. Now you have everything you need to create your own projects using Node.js streams. The next modules will lead you to the best practices, performance tricks, and ways to empower the way you write stream pipelines in Node.js. Although, aside from error handling techniques that I'm gonna show you in the next classes, you have all the concepts you need to create and consume petabytes of data if you need them. The next class is the final project in this module, and you build a powerful stream parsing tool to parse CSV data to JSON, and that's exciting as you learn how other popular packages work behind the scenes. I hope this class has exceeded your expectations. I'm Eric Wendell, and I'll see you in the next video.